This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
Welcome into another edition of the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. I'm Chris Yao, and we are presented each week by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where they remind you that fans don't let fans drive drunk. A lot of great football played this past weekend. We're going to tell you what happened as we make our way around the Main Street Preps coverage area with several of our writers. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We'll start in Robertson County with David Wilson.
Everybody, this is David Wilson, sports reporter for the Robertson County Connection, here to give you a quick recap of all the Week 5 action across the Robertson County area as we reached the halfway point of the regular season last Friday night. The big matchup in Robertson County this past week was the Match in the Patch, the 69th edition between East Robertson and Joe Burns, and for the 7th consecutive year, the Indians from Cross Plains, East Robertson, comes out with the victory. They defeated the Red Devils 43-27 on Friday night in the game that was very close in a 2-point game early in the fourth quarter. East Robertson had 5 players suspended for violating team rules on Friday night, including 4-star prospect Zach Groves, starting running back Caleb McNeil, and starting skill position players Xavion Groves and Caden Perry. But it was Luis Martinez, the former scout team running back, that was thrust into the starting role because of McNeil's suspension, that ran for 214 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Joe Burns defense. Kason Young also ran for 179 yards from the quarterback position and threw a 19-yard touchdown pass to Cade Brooks. Young also had 2 rushing touchdowns. For Joe Burns, this quarterback, Mourice Patton, who stepped into that position from the running back position as quarterback Luke Miller had a concussion, ran for 4 touchdowns for Joe Burns as they fall to 1-4 on the year. Nice effort this week despite the result for Joe Burns. Moving on, Centennial scored a last-second touchdown with 26 seconds remaining to thwart an upset attempt by Springfield on Friday night for their homecoming. Centennial pulls out the 7-3 win as Riley Turner, the Cougars quarterback, hit Connie Johnson on a short touchdown pass to give Centennial a win on a game that was 0-0 at the half and 0-0 entering the fourth quarter. Springfield has 3 losses on the year. They're now 2-3. All 3 of their losses have come by 1 possession. So they lost by 7 to Clarksville, 1 point to Henry County, and now 4 to the Cougars of 6A. Moving on, Marshall County remained undefeated in Region 5-4A as they defeated White House 42-7 on Friday night. Tyler Thompson, the quarterback for the Tigers, was 11-15 passing for 187 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Tigers offense also ran for 207 yards and 2 scores. The lone White House touchdown came on an Easton Big 70-yard touchdown to Reed Aguilar. White House will face rival Greenbrier next week. White House Heritage defeated previously unbeaten Forest on Friday night, the number 6 team according to the Tennessee Sports Writers Association in the Class 2A poll. 35-31 was the final for the Patriots' victory. Quarterback Xavier Murray, the sophomore, was 23 of 30, passing for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns. Eric Lopez caught 6 balls for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is now 2 touchdowns away from the Heritage all-time career mark for receiving touchdowns. As I mentioned, Greenbrier facing White House this week. The Bobcats lost another contest on Friday night. They lost to Station Camp 41-0. The Bobcats are now 0-5 for the first time since 2001. Moving on, and finally, Bradley Central came from East Tennessee to defeat Innovation Academy 55-7 on Friday night. Ali Sanganez, the quarterback for the Sentinels, was 13 of 17 passing for 127 yards. He also threw 1 interception. The lone touchdowns for the Sentinels came on a run by Blake Binkley. He had 14 carries for 68 yards and 1 score. So that'll do it here on the Week 5 edition of the Roundup and the recap from Robertson County. Looking forward to talking to you guys once again next week.
David, as always, thanks so much. Blaine Kellar has your Sumner County report.
Sumner County sports editor Blaine Kellar here to give you some scores and storylines from Week 5 of the Sumner County football season. Let's jump right into it, starting with Gallatin's homecoming game against Warren County. The Green Wave had lost back-to-back games. Their offense had scored just 7 points in that stretch. So what did they do? Coach Michael Strapp and company come out with a 65-0 win against the Pioneers of Warren County. It's the most points scored by Gallatin since 2020, and a big bounce back going into next week's game against Green Hill. Beach and Hendersonville set up the battle for Drakes Creek this week with a couple of big wins on Friday. Both teams now 4-1 going into that game at Shackle Island. Beach won 28-7 at Independence, and Hendersonville picked up a 35-27 win at Siegel. Westmoreland is 4-1 for the first time since 2018. The Eagles picked up a region win, that being 28-7 against Monterey. JP2 earned back-to-back Division II AA Middle Region wins. The Knights had to overcome 20-7 first half deficit though with Goodpasture. They needed a missed last second kick by the Cougars to pull off that one. Now 2-3 going into a game against Davidson Academy. Some other scores. Portland surpasses its win total from last season. Head coach Hunter Hicks and company won 24-21 against Clay County. Station Camp, they've got their first win of the year, this time 41-0. The Bison are victorious against Greenbrier on the road. East Nashville with a late win against Liberty Creek in the MyTV 30 game of the week. That was one of our 2 losses in the area of the 9 games played. The Wolves dropped that one 26-20. And Marshall County continued its perfect season facing White House. That one being a 42-7 final score. Again, 7-2. Not a bad mark for the Sumner County area. Those are your scores and storylines from week 5. And we'll kick it back to you guys.
Blaine, thanks so much. All right, we move right along, and we're going to go over to Calvin White, who is in Montgomery and Houston County.
Hello, everyone. This is Calvin White, sports editor with Main Street Clarksville, here to give you a quick recap of all the high school football scores in Montgomery County for Week 5. We're going to start with Clarksville and West Creek. Clarksville stays undefeated with a 44-7 win over the Coyotes. Rossview wins 44-26 over Northeast. Rossview moves to 5-0 for the first time in program history, and Northeast stays winless on the season. Dixon County downs undefeated Kirkwood 17-14. The Cougars forced 6 turnovers against the Cobras. Kirkwood's defense only allowed 17 points. That's the most points that Kirkwood has allowed all season, but the 6 turnovers did the Cobras in the 17-14 loss. Pearl Cone, the reigning 5A state champion, beats Montgomery Central 61-0. Montgomery Central stays winless as well. Grace Christian downs Clarksville Academy 27-7. Clarksville Academy stays stuck on 1 win. They move to 1-4. Hillsboro pulled out a close win over Kenwood. The Knights still looking for their first win, but fall to Hillsboro 27-20 in Week 5. And rounding out the Montgomery County high school football slate, FRA beats Northwest 51-0. Northwest drops to 1-4, their lone win being their Week 1 win against Fort Campbell. I'm Calvin White, sports editor with Main Street Clarksville. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, it's time for our first break of the day. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. We'll be right back in just a moment.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back into the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Once again, I'm Chris Yao, And I'm just going to take you around the Main Street Preps coverage area to each of our writers, find out what happened over the weekend in high school football. We continue on now, and we'll go to Dickson County, where Casey Patrick has a report.
Hi, my name is Casey Patrick. I'm the sports reporter for the Dickson Post and the Cheatham County Exchange. We're going to give you a quick recap over week 5 of football season. We're already halfway through the season, which is kind of bittersweet, but we still got another half of the regular season left. We'll start over in the Dickson area. We'll start with Creekwood. They destroyed White Creek 42-14. I know one of White Creek's touchdowns was scored in the last few minutes. It was, I think it was 42-6 with just a few seconds to go, really. But Creekwood moving to 4-1 on the year. Of course, they only lost to Pearl Cone. Dickson County, they're at 3-2 now. They've won 3 games in a row after losing weeks 1 and 2. A 3-point win on the road at Kirkwood. 2 of the last 2 wins for Dickson County on the road, of course, at Kirkwood and at Gallatin. Again, Dickson County, 3 wins in a row. They're 3-2 on the year. Moving up into Cheatham County, Harpeth went over to Waverly, and they beat Waverly pretty good, 34-0. A really, really good performance for that defense. Carson Mock, I think, had 12 total tackles. I think he had 2 tackles for loss. Ran for 80 yards and a touchdown. John Michael Neely had 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think he's ran for 3 touchdowns in 2 separate games this year already. So moving on to Sycamore, that was the game I was at Friday. Sycamore lost 27-6. They had 7 turnovers. Each of the first two drives ended quickly. The first one was an interception returned for a pick 6, and from there it just kind of went downhill for Sycamore. But they lost 27-6. Cheatham County Central lost 43-0 at Fairview. Cheatham County Central, they're really dealing with some injury issues right now. Hopefully they can get healthy and get back in the win column. But thank y'all very much. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, Casey. All right, moving on down south, we'll go to Maury County, where Maurice Patton is standing by.
I'm Main Street Murray sports editor Maurice Patton. Week 5 down this way had its share of stellar performances and dramatics. J.P. Easterling scored 3 touchdowns, including one on the first snap of overtime, as Mount Pleasant stayed perfect with a 19-13 victory at previously unbeaten Summertown. The Tigers took over sole possession of Region 5 2A with the victory, moving to 5-0 overall and 3-0 in region play. Cordell Isaac's 4th touchdown pass and his 2nd of the night to Jackson Westbeld went for 23 yards and gave Spring Hill a 26-23 overtime victory against Lawson. It was the first win for the Raiders since last year's win at Lawson, and it was on homecoming. So a lot to celebrate at Spring Hill this weekend with that 26-23 win that moved them to 1-4 on the season. Columbia Central got a pair of second-half rushing touchdowns from Justice Haggard to pull out a 24-7 win over visiting Lawrence County in Region 5 5A play. Haggard rushed for 93 yards on 18 carries with the 2 touchdowns as Columbia Central improved to 3-2 overall and 1-1 in region play. Monte Baldwin rushed for a season-high 241 yards and scored twice as Columbia Academy opened Division 2A Middle Region play with a 28-7 win over Donaldson Christian. CA moved to 3-2 with that victory. Summit was without starting quarterback Mason McElhaney in a 31-0 Region 6-6A loss to Brentwood, while Independence stayed winless with a 31-0 loss to Beach. That's going to do it for Week 5's wrap-up here in Maury County and Southern Williamson County. I'm Maurice Patton, sports editor for Main Street Maury. We'll see y'all soon.
All right, now we go to Wade Neely, who has both your Giles and Lawrence County reports.
Hey folks, Wade Neely here at the Pulaski Citizen, sports editor and contributor also over at the Lawrence County Advocate. Time now for a Week 5 recap. What a week it was for our area squads, and you'll hear a little bit of this double dose, if you will, from our Main Street Murray sports editor, Mo Patton, who's going to give you probably the Columbia side of things. But I'll give you an update as well because we did have several crossover matchups, and we'll start in Lawrence County where the Wildcats, it was homecoming night for Columbia, and man, Columbia came out and played well as they win it 24-7. Scoring was at a premium in the first half, and it was tied 7-7 at halftime. Caden Allred goes in for the for the Lions. Luis Garcia making a kick there, and then Carter Pettigrew tying the game up after a Sarah Morrison PAT. Once again, 7-7 your score at halftime. Third quarter is when Columbia really got rolling, though. Justice Haggard with a 19-yard run, and then also one in the early stages of the fourth quarter from 6 yards out. Garcia adds a late field goal, and once again, Columbia takes care of business 24-7. Tough loss there for Lawrence County, who has been there in several games, but just unable to get things done, unfortunately. So the Wildcats do come up short. Speaking of coming up short, Heartbreak City in what many would consider our game of the week, undefeated Mount Pleasant, undefeated Summertown, and it was a game that went down to the wire, and Summertown does fall in overtime, 19-13. Crazy game. Actually, I caught the end of this one, the feed online, and wow, wasn't there, but what a game that it was. As we had contributors both for Main Street Murray and for the Lawrence County Advocate there, and everybody that was there was treated to a fantastic game. Summertown and Mount Pleasant trading scores. Thanks to Easterling for Mount Pleasant, and then Jaden Stahl in the fourth quarter goes in for Summertown. Summertown, however, misses a PAT, a crucial PAT that would have potentially given them the win late in regulation. They onside kick, which is an interesting move, but they onside kick at the end of regulation. Mount Pleasant, after some consternation, does take over. They kneel. They go to overtime, though, and when we go into overtime, it is Mount Pleasant scoring on their opening trip, and 19-13 would be the final score. Summertown had a chance, had the ball down to the 1 yard line, but a QB sneak, kind of a tush-push goes awry there, and unfortunately unable to get it done. So a low-scoring affair, but 19-13, Summertown does fall for the first time this season. On the other end of the spectrum, Loretto and Lewis County, they lit the scoreboard up. 105 points. This game didn't get over until about 10:30 or 10:45 on Friday night as Loretto leaves Hohenwald with a win, 64-41. Nicholas McDowell was doing crazy rushes, doing crazy Nicholas McDowell things. I mean, this guy has been a monster for Loretto this season, and he had a big night, as did Jackson Robertson, and really all of the offense for Loretto kind of showed up and showed out. Again, 61-44. It was a game that probably should have been over well before that. It was 48-20 going into the fourth quarter. But Lewis County kind of kept lingering around. Crazy deal. We saw the drone operator that was asked to leave the football game. I mean, it was a wild game. Let's just put it to you that way. But again, 61-44 for the win over at Lewis County. All that was going on in Lawrence County. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Giles County was off, but Richland was very much on as they took the opening kickoff 90 yards. Nash Petty taking it to pay dirt, and they never looked back. 44-7 was your final score. Richland is now 4-1 on the season. They've won 4 in a row after dropping their opener to 5A Lincoln County. Most importantly, they're 2-0 and sitting atop the Region 5A standings. They're the last undefeated team already in region play. And crazy win for Richland in the sense that was their first regular season win at Cornersville since 2001. It had been a long time since Richland had won over there, and the Raiders played very well. Mark Mize has a great recap for us at PulaskiCitizen.com. Richland, again, Nash Petty had a monster night. Blaine Woodard and Aylin Kennedy had big nights, as did Luke Eastlick. I mean, it was a great night to be a Richland Raider as region play rolls along now for Richland, and it'll be interesting as they host Huntland Friday night at Wayne Hobbs Stadium. I'll have much more on all of our area teams, including Giles County, who is back in action this Friday, on our preview section later this week. Wade Neely saying so long for now. We will see you next time. The football season is halfway home, and we're on the backstretch after this.
Thanks, Wade. All right, one more break. We've got a couple more reports to get to on the other side of this, so stick around here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Again, presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
He shoots, and he scores!
And we're back here for our final segment on the show. Thanks again for hanging out with us here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Again, I'm Chris Yao, and thanks to the Tennessee Highway Safety Office for allowing us to bring this to you each and every week on Main Street Media Television. Don't forget to download our app, MSM TV, Main Street Media TV, on your Apple, iPhone, Android, Google, whatever device, Amazon Fire Stick, wherever you get your streaming devices. You can download the Main Street Media TV app just by simply searching Main Street Media TV and looking for that MSM TV logo. All right, let's go now to Tommy Bryan, who has your Wilson County report.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tommy Bryan, sports editor of the Wilson Post in Lebanon, and here's a look at how the Wilson County football teams fared on Friday, September 20. Green Hill broke open a 28-all game with 24 unanswered points in the second half as the Hawks remained undefeated with a 52-28 home win over Lebanon. Cannon Burroughs accounted for 319 yards from scrimmage and 6 touchdowns. The junior quarterback ran for 4 scores, 3 in the second half, and he threw 2 touchdown passes. Deuce Edwards led the Blue Devils with 116 yards rushing and a touchdown. Mount Juliet made the trip to Cookeville and led the Cavaliers 31-7 after 3 quarters, then had to hold off Cookeville for a 38-21 win at Eddie Watson Stadium in a battle of Region 6 4A unbeatens. Trey Redmond returned a Blake Owen pass for 91 yards and a touchdown, while Jamichael Crudup accounted for 161 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns for the Golden Bears. Watertown snapped an 0-4 start to the season with a 20-3 victory over Cascade Friday at Robinson Stadium. Garrett Davis scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter for the Purple Tigers, while the defensive unit limited Cascade to just 45 yards in offense and forced 3 turnovers. Also on Friday, Shelbyville Central blanked Wilson Central 44-0, while Nashville Christian School hung a 58-0 loss on Mount Juliet Christian Academy at Ed Suey Field. And finally, Nashville Republic forfeited its second consecutive game, this one a Friday night contest at Friendship Christian School. That's a look at high school football from Wilson County on September the 20th. For Main Street Preps, I'm Tommy Bryan, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Tommy. Finally, Monte Hale is in Murfreesboro.
Hello, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post. We're going to recap Week 5 of the high school football season. It's hard to believe, halfway through the regular season. And we'll start off with Riverdale 42, Rockville 7. The Warriors have only given up 47 points all season. They're really playing outstanding right now. Caden Bailey had 69 yards. and a touchdown. Kadarian and Fletcher had almost 100 yards receiving. Malachi Tellin threw for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. So the Warriors not only getting it done offensively, they're getting it done defensively. And they were really just too much for Rockville, who's struggling right now. Your young quarterback, Javian Elliott, did have over 120 yards in total offense, but a lot of work to do for Coach Guthrie and his staff out at Rockville. They lost the game they probably should have won earlier at Tullahoma, and they just really haven't seemed to regroup from that, on top of the fact they played some really good football teams. Smyrna 36, Laverne nothing. Ryan Carver, 2 rushing touchdowns. Aiden Augustine, almost 100 yards rushing and a score. Smyrna continues to dominate this series. It was the region opener for both. Smyrna now 2-3, 1-0. Laverne is 0-5. They're struggling. They just can't generate any offense at all. I think maybe 14 or 13 points is their highest output of the season. So, you can play all the defense you want, but until you put some points on the board, particularly in this day and age, it's going to be a struggle. Stewart's Creek 35, Cane Ridge 19. Stewart's Creek is 4-1. Of course, they're 1-0 in the region. Caleb Floyd over 160 yards in total offense and 3 TDs, and Jerry Floyd Jerry Smith, up to almost 300 yards in total offense. So it was a complete domination by Stewart's Creek. Looks like their game against Antioch, which is coming up, could very well be possibly for first place in that region and home field advantage in the playoffs. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's certainly going to be a marquee matchup. Hendersonville 35, Siegel 27. Braylon Albee almost 100 yards rushing and a TD for Smyrna. Bryson Green had 100 yards and 2 TDs himself. Siegel got behind in that game and it had to play catch-up. Eagleville 48, Huntland 14. Eagles now 2-1 in region play. Probably playing their best football right now. They've got some tough games coming up themselves. Elsewhere, Webb beat Middle Tennessee Christian 34-21. This was pretty competitive for well over a half. But Webb too strong. They've moved up in a class. PCA 32, Grundy County 12. It was 12-7 Grundy County, and PCA outscored them 25-0. Tatum Marks rushed for 99 yards, threw for 78, and accounted for 3 touchdowns. Sean Burkhofer led the way defensively, 8 tackles and an interception. Okay, the big one was Blackman and Oakland. Most people thought this would be an easy Oakland win. Hardly. Blackman went up 3-0. They got a safety. They were up 5-0. They got a touchdown. They were up 12-0. And Oakland didn't score until the third quarter. Then they scored right toward the end of the game with about 2.5 minutes before the game. And Blackman drove all the way down. Their freshman quarterback did a great job. Marcus Cameron led them all the way down where they were lining up a 37-yard field goal to win it. He had already kicked from 36 and 37, and Oakland blocked it. And, a thrilling game. Probably they've had a lot of classic games. This will go down amongst them. Unfortunately, there was a little nasty incident at the end after the game was over. You hate to see that, but it is an emotional game, and sometimes people don't think. But I know you got to keep your emotions in check. All righty. Again, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Thanks again to our title sponsor, the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Remember, fans, don't let fans drive drunk. Make sure to download your version of the MSM TV app onto your mobile device or, of course, onto your smart television at home. And don't forget to listen to the High School Football Game of the Week each and every week right here on Main Street Media TV. Until next time, I'm Chris Yao saying have a great day.
This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.